guys, welcome back to the channel. This is your host, Christopher Corey with Shadows Techland. So I wanted to go over some more additional updates in better details, and in this case regarding my storage needs and Unraid and what I've basically done at this point in time and what I will be doing here shortly as well. So basically, long story short, to kind of roll back, previously I was running two Unraid servers, my primary, which had most of my storage, and then I had a backup which was basically offline and was basically a dual Xeon setup that was pretty much turned off except for data backups. And then I had an offsite server which had a very small amount of storage on it because I haven't had basically the funds to upgrade, because it does get quite costly trying to maintain 3 arrays. I basically decided, I kind of sat down, did some thinking on what works right business-wise and financially for me, and I basically decided to kill off my second backup array and sold what I had, a combination of 4 terabyte and 8 terabyte drives. I sold off the 4 terabyte drives to kind of help myself out a little bit, kept the 8 terabyte drives. I had roughly like 7 8 terabyte drives if I remember correctly. I went ahead and took out a couple of those to put into Unraid. So I was roughly about, I think, 70-ish terabytes and then about 65 terabytes in data that I was currently using at the time before I went through and made these changes. I had mostly 8s and then actually 2 4 terabyte drives. I have, since then, I have taken the 2 4 terabyte drives out, replaced them with 8s, which obviously with all these data migrations and adds, it takes an extreme amount of time. Every drive rebuild is roughly about 15 hours plus. Even if you're doing upgrades from 4s to 8s, it takes quite a long time. It's a really long, painful process, but I digress. So I've taken the 4s out, replaced them with 8 terabyte drives, and then on top of that I added additional 3 more 8 terabyte drives. So at this point in time I am now running roughly a little over 100 terabytes. Actually, it's 104 terabytes with at this point in time 66.7 terabytes used, and then free 37.3 terabytes. So right now I am running roughly 15 drives. So 2 of those are parity drives right here and right here, and then I'm running 13 data drives, and then I have a 2 SSD cache pool. This should get me by. Basically at this point in time I've kind of gotten to the, well, for better lack of words, a wall on Unraid. Unfortunately, this is what I basically feel the most comfortable with, because one of the things that I have found, one of the limitations with Unraid is you can only go to a 2 drive parity, which if you're doing really large drives at this point in time, you're kind of running the risk of failure. It basically depends on what you deem as acceptable as loss. I mean, really, with a 13 drive array and only 2 drive failover, that's kind of pushing it if you ask me, especially if you don't have proper backups, which is something I am also currently working on. I will be taking the extra, which at this point in time, in total, when I get the drives that I have coming, I will have 5 8 terabyte drives, so I will be doing some adds and upgrades to the drives that I have offsite at a family member's location, which I believe at this point in time is 10 4 terabyte drives. So I'm running about 35 terabytes because it's a 1 drive failover using stable bit drive pool through a Windows 10 box, which works fine for me. When I do my upgrades, depending on what I'm able to come up with, I have to go through and look at the case. I can't remember how much room I have because I'm using a Fractal Design R5 if I'm not mistaken, and that will give me roughly about 15 to 20 terabytes more, which will put me pretty much about 80 to 90% of my data that I have here. Obviously, I don't need to do full one-to-one mirror backups, because some things getting backed up is kind of pointless, like Veeam backups from my machines here, virtual machine updates, backups, things of that nature. Really doesn't do me a lot of good to have them 3 hours away, which is where my family member lives. So those backups will just be on an additional cold store drive that I have stored here, which works just fine, and that will get me taken care of that way. So basically at this point in time, I'm kind of maxed. If I ever get to the point, which most likely I will probably fill up these drives at some point in time, I'm probably going to move away from Unraid. What I'll basically need to do at that point in time is I will need to go to a 4U case, because I've basically outgrown my Corsair 760T, which has obviously 15 drives stuffed in it, which is kind of ridiculous at this point in time. But I will go to a 4U recommended case, which will give me a hotspot base, which is going to be quite nice as well. But once again, I digress. So basically, when I get to that point, I really don't feel comfortable. I mean, yeah, I could probably upgrade from 8s to 12s or 14s or 16s or something of that nature. But I feel once I get to that point, I'm probably going to look into moving away from Unraid and moving over to most likely FreeNAS at that point in time, but that will be a painful data migration. But basically I will burn that bridge when I get there. The only other real changes that I've made is I've gone from 1 SSD to a 2 SSD cache pool, which my cache pool is basically where all of my Docker containers, a couple of my VMs, Plex metadata is also stored there as well. And if you have not gone to a 2 SSD cache pool, and if you're using Unraid, I extremely highly recommend it, because wow, did I see a performance increase when I did that. Almost a night and day difference. I definitely highly recommend it if you do have a spare SSD that is the same as what you already have, or if you're looking at buying. Another thing that I've went ahead and done is I've moved from 6.9 beta 22 to beta 25. At the time of making this video, I'm at 6.9 beta 25 for the operating system, and then also at the time of making this video, last I checked, for the NVIDIA Docker application you get from the Community Application Store, which will give you the GPU transcoding, whether it's through a VM or through Docker, doing GPU transcoding that way, which is what I have set up on mine. The latest that they had was beta 25. Of course, that was at the last time of making this video, which is as of August 13th. Whether that's changed, I haven't looked in a few days, and I don't see any other updates yet at this point in time. From what I've read on the forums and from what I've been seeing from the communications, it looks like they will be moving to 6.9 release candidate, so instead of, they'll be moving out of beta here, I believe, in the next couple weeks to the next month or so. Don't hold me to that. Obviously, things can change, but it looks like they're definitely getting much, much closer to a release candidate, which would be really good to see. Personally, when it comes to beta 22 and 25, the only thing that I saw as a problem basically was the VMs. You had to change the networking, which there is a guide out for that. So you had to go into the VM itself, turn it off, shut down the VM, and then you need to move from whatever virtual network adapter it is to the new one, and that will allow the VM to start. So if you went ahead and upgraded to 22 or 25 and you see your VMs not starting up, you'll want to go ahead and make sure that they're down, go into edit, and then you'll need to go down to the virtual networking and switch to the other option, and then that should go ahead and set up your VM to where it will be able to start up again at that point in time. Besides that, I really haven't done a lot of other changes, except for basically I added around roughly about 30 terabytes more in space, so that's a good thing for me. So that should definitely get me by for quite a while. Besides that, if you have any other questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. You can definitely go ahead and hit me up on my social media, which I'll leave a link in the description. Otherwise, another good option would be to jump into my Discord server. I'm fairly active in there as well. Other than that, have a good day and weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later.